The bank manager's face went white. I watched her eyes move slowly across her screen, then back to my stack of receipts, and then back to the screen again. She did this 3 times carefully, deliberately, as if hoping the numbers might somehow change. I had placed 120 Western Union receipts on her desk, each one meticulously preserved in a clear plastic sleeve, sorted by month and year. 10 long years of payments, $143,760 in total. Every dollar faithfully sent to a company called Southeastern Loan Servicing. The young woman across from me swallowed hard. I could see the tension in her throat, and when she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper, gentle, cautious, almost afraid of what her own words might mean. "Ma'am, I need you to stay calm, but there is no loan number matching any of these statements. There never was." My hands did not shake. Not yet. I looked down at the RECIPTS, one after another, each one carrying the same printed name, Southeastern Loan Servicing, the company my stepson, Craig, had told me to send payments to after my husband's funeral when grief was still fresh, and trust felt natural, unquestioned. Then she spoke again, her tone softer now, but far more serious. "Do you recognize the account these payments were actually deposited into?" And slowly, deliberately, she turned the screen toward me. "Good day, dear listeners. I'm so truly glad you're here with me today. Please, take a moment to like this video, listen to my story, let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see just how far my story has traveled and how many hearts it has reached. My name is Dorothy. I am 78 years old, and I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. For 31 years, I was married to a man named Walter Whitmore. Walter was an electrician. He ran his own small business, Whitmore Electrical, and he was the kind of man who showed up early, stayed late, and never once complained about either. We lived in a 3-bedroom house on Maple Ridge Drive. It was not a fancy house. The porch railing needed repainting every few years, and the kitchen faucet dripped if you did not turn the handle just right. But it was ours. We paid it off together dollar by dollar over 22 long years. Every payment felt like progress. Every receipt felt like proof of our shared work and sacrifice. Walter had a son from his first marriage. His name was Craig. Craig lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he visited us about twice a year, usually around Thanksgiving and once again in the summer. He was polite. He was distant. He called Walter Dad, and he called me Dorothy, never Mom. And that was fine. I never pushed it. Some relationships grow slowly, and some simply stay the way they are. When Walter passed away, I made sure Craig received his father's things, the items that carried the weight of a lifetime. The toolbox Walter had carried to every job site for 20 years. His wristwatch, with a scratched face that told stories of hard work. His fishing rod and tackle box still smelling faintly of lake water and early mornings. I wrapped each item carefully in tissue paper and drove them to the post office myself. I wanted Craig to have pieces of his father. I truly believed that mattered. As for me, I was not a wealthy woman. After Walter died, I lived on my Social Security check of $1,847 per month and a small pension from the Knoxville School District, where I had worked as a librarian for 19 years. That pension was $612 a month. I clipped coupons. I drove a 2009 Camry with 161,000 miles on it, and I had never not once missed a bill payment in my entire life. There is one thing about me that people tend to overlook. Perhaps because I am quiet. Perhaps because I am old. Perhaps because I wear cardigans and orthopedic shoes. I keep records. Every receipt, every bank statement, every single piece of mail that came into my house went into a labeled Manila envelope, sorted carefully by month and year, and filed in a sturdy metal filing cabinet that Walter built for me in 1998. He welded it himself in the garage. Strong, reliable, built to last just like the life we shared. He used to laugh and say, "Dorothy, you could audit the IRS." I never laughed quite as loudly. I simply liked things in order. I don't raise my voice. I never have. but I pay attention to things, the small details, the quiet numbers that other people assume I won't understand. Let me take you back 10 years. Walter died on a Tuesday in October 2014, a heart attack. He was 72 years old. He was in the garage, working on an estimate for a job when it happened. I found him sitting quietly in his chair, the paperwork still resting in his hand. The pen had rolled under the workbench. I remember bending down, picking up that pen, and carefully putting the cap back on before I called 911. I don't know why I did that. Maybe because Walter hated when pens dried out. Even in that moment, in the middle of shock and grief, I wanted to do one small thing the way he liked it. The funeral was small. Walter was not a man who collected crowds. His crew came, a few neighbors came, and Craig drove up from Charlotte with his wife Janelle. He wore a dark suit that looked new, crisp, untouched, almost formal in a way that felt unfamiliar. He shook hands with people Walter had known for decades, and each time he introduced himself, he said, "I'm Walter's son," not, "I'm Craig." He wanted people to know the connection. 3 weeks after the funeral, Craig came back. He drove up on a Saturday morning without calling first. I heard the car door shut at exactly 7:45 a.m. He knocked, and when I opened the door, he was holding a manila folder. He sat me down at my kitchen table. I still remember the sound of the chair legs scraping slowly across the linoleum sharp, final, impossible to ignore. He placed the folder in front of me, opened it, and slid a document carefully across the table. "Dorothy," he said, his voice steady but serious. "Dad had a business loan, a big one, $168,000 from a private lender called Southeastern Loan Servicing. He took it out 5 years ago to keep the business going." I stared at the paper. It had Walter's name on it. It had a signature at the bottom that looked like Walter's handwriting. And it had a logo at the top, Southeastern Loan Servicing, printed in dark blue letters. Craig leaned forward, lowering his voice, making the moment feel urgent. "Dad didn't want to worry you," he said, "but the loan is still outstanding. If you don't pay it, they'll put a lion on the house. You'll lose everything." My chest went tight, so tight it felt hard to breathe. Walter had always handled the business finances separately from our household accounts. I knew he had expenses. I knew some years were tighter than others. It was possible, I thought, painfully possible. It was possible he had taken out a loan and chosen not to tell me. I trusted Walter, and I trusted Craig, because he was Walter's only son. Craig set up the payment plan himself. He said the lender wanted $1,198 per month, sent by wire transfer to a P.O. box in Charlotte. He handed me a payment booklet neatly printed, organized, professional, with the dates and amounts already filled in. Everything looked official. Everything looked final. Then he gave me one more instruction. He told me not to contact the lender directly. "They're difficult people," he said. "They don't like dealing with individuals. I'll handle all the communications. You just send the payments on time, and everything will be fine." Then he did something I will never forget. He reached across the table and patted my hand. He patted it gently, slowly, the way someone might comfort a child. And he said, "Dad always said you weren't good with numbers. Let me take care of the hard part." I nodded, but something inside me went very, very still, because Walter never said that. Not once. Not in 31 years of marriage. Walter trusted me to balance every household account, to manage every bill, to reconcile every bank statement down to the last penny. Walter knew exactly how good I was with numbers, but I did not say any of this to Craig. I did not argue. I did not question. I simply nodded. And the next month, I sent the first payment, $1,198 by wire transfer, and I filed the receipt carefully in a fresh manila envelope, labeled Southeastern Loan Servicing, November 2014. I kept paying every single month for 10 years, and I kept every single receipt. Now let me bring you to the present. It was September 2024 when everything changed. I went to my local bank to ask about refinancing my property taxes. The tax bill had gone up, and I wanted to see if there was a way to spread the payments out to make things just a little more manageable. A loan officer named Kevin pulled up my financial profile. He looked at the screen, then looked at me. There was a pause, the kind that makes your stomach tighten before a word is even spoken. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said carefully, "I see you have a recurring large payment going out every month, $1,198. Can you tell me what that's for?" I explained everything. About Walter's business loan, about Southeastern loan servicing, about the lion that would be placed on my house if I ever stopped paying. Kevin frowned. He typed something into his computer. He waited quiet, focused as the system searched for records. Then he looked back at me, his voice calm but unmistakably firm. "Ma'am, there is no lion recorded against your property. There never has been. Your house is free and clear." I drove home with my hands tight on the steering wheel, so tight my knuckles turned pale. The autumn air drifted through the cracked window, carrying the gentle smell of wood smoke and fallen leaves. And I remember thinking how strange it was, how deeply unsettling that the world could smell so peaceful when everything inside me was quietly falling apart. I went straight to the filing cabinet. I pulled out the original folder Craig had given me 10 years earlier. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, put on my reading glasses, picked up a magnifying glass, and began to read that loan agreement line by line for the very first time. Not just glance at it, not just trust it, really read it. The first thing I noticed was Walter's signature. The letter W looped to the left. Walter's W had always looped to the right. I had seen him sign his name 10,000 times on birthday cards, tax returns, checks, and the deed to our house. His W always looped right. Always. This one looped left. Then I looked more closely at the letterhead. Southeastern Loan Servicing. Dark blue logo. Professional looking. Convincing at first glance. But there was no phone number. No street address. No email. Just the P.O. box in Charlotte. I went to my computer. I am not fast with computers, not like younger people, but I know how to use a search engine. Slowly, carefully, I typed in the name. Southeastern Loan Servicing. Nothing appeared. No website. No business listing. No registration with the state of Tennessee or North Carolina. No reviews. No complaints. No record anywhere that this company had ever existed. I sat there for a long time. The clock on the wall ticked so loudly it felt like it was echoing inside my teeth. Tick, tick, tick. Then, very slowly, I opened a fresh manila folder. I picked up a pen, steadied my hand, and in my careful handwriting, I wrote on the tab, Craig Christian. I spread all 120 receipts across the table, 10 neat rows of 12. Every payment accounted for. Every dollar recorded. $14,360 sent faithfully, month after month, to a company that did not appear to exist. I thought about Craig's last phone call just 2 weeks earlier. He had sounded cheerful, warm, even, almost reassuring. "You've only got about 2 more years of payments, then you're free," he had said. Dad would be proud. His voice had been light, ainsi, the voice of a man who was not worried about anything at all. I sat at my kitchen table until 2 in the morning. The house was silent, completely still, except for that relentless clock, ticking, counting, marking every second. And somewhere around midnight, the grief I had been carrying for 10 long years began to shift, to change shape, to harden into something else. Something colder, something sharper, something much more clear. This was not Walter's DEBT. This was not grief. This was a shame. And my stepson had been stealing from me, quietly, deliberately, for an entire decade. The next morning, I called Craig. I kept my voice calm, soft, the voice of a 78-year-old woman who does not understand complicated things, or at least the voice people expect her to have. "Craig, honey," I said gently, "the bank was asking me about the loan payments. They wanted a payoff statement from the lender. Could you get me one?" The silence on the other end lasted 4 seconds. I counted. Then Craig spoke. "Why do you need that?" he asked. "I told you 2 more years." Just keep paying. Well, I said politely. The bank just asked. I think they need it for my file. His tone changed. It grew sharp, defensive, almost angry. Dorothy, don't go talking to banks about Dad's private business. You'll embarrass his memory. Just leave it alone. I said okay. I said I was sorry for bothering him. I said goodbye and hung up the phone. 2 days later, Craig called back. His voice was different again. Varm, friendly, smooth as if the first conversation had never happened at all. Good news, he said brightly. I talked to the lender, and they're willing to accept a lump sum of $22,000 to close the loan out early. Isn't that great? You can pull it from your savings and be done with the whole thing. I closed my eyes. $22,000 was almost everything I had left in my savings account after 10 long years of monthly payments. Just write the check to me, Craig continued. I'll hand deliver it to them. Let's get this off your plate. You're too old to be worrying about this stuff. You're too old. There it was again. That phrase. It settled into my chest like a stone, heavy, cold, impossible to ignore. I almost agreed. The part of me that had spent 10 years trusting, 10 years paying, 10 years being the quiet, grateful stepmother. That part of me almost said yes, but I did not write the check. Instead, I called my neighbor Arlen. Arlene is 81 years old and sharp as a blade. She worked as a paralegal for 30 years before she retired. She understands paperwork. She understands patterns. And most importantly, she understands when something is very, very wrong. I told her everything. The payments, the missing company, the signature that looped the wrong way, the sudden payoff demand. Arlene was quiet for a long time. I could hear her breathing softly through the phone, slow, steady, thoughtful, the way people breathe when they are putting pieces together in their mind. Then she spoke. Dorothy, she said firmly, you need to talk to Linda Reeves at First National Bank. She handles fraud cases. And do not send Craig another dime until you do. I did not hesitate. I called the bank at exactly 8:01 the next morning. I asked for Linda Reeves by name. Linda Reeves was not what I expected. She was in her mid-50s, with short gray hair and reading glasses resting on a delicate chain around her neck. She had been with First National Bank for 22 years, the last 14 in their fraud investigation department. And from the very first moment, she did something different. She did not talk to me like I was OLD. She did not pat my hand. She did not rush me. She listened. I brought everything with me that day. The original loan agreement. All 120 wire transfer receipts. The payment booklet Craig had given me. His phone number. His address. In Charlotte. I placed it all carefully on her desk in precise chronological order, because that is how I keep things. Order brings clarity, and clarity brings truth. Linda spent 45 minutes going through the documents page by page, line by line, her expression focused, thoughtful, professional. Then she turned to her computer and began tracing the wire transfers. The office smelled faintly of burnt coffee and copier toner. The fluorescent light above us buzzed softly, a steady electric hum, and I remember focusing on that sound to keep myself calm, to keep myself steady while she worked. After about 20 minutes, Linda slowly removed her glasses and set them gently on the desk. That small movement told me everything. Something had been found. Mrs. Whitmore, she said, her voice calm but unmistakably serious. Every single one of these payments went to a personal checking account at a bank in Charlotte, North Carolina. She paused just long enough to let the weight of her words settle into the room. That account is registered to Craig David Whitmore. Another pause. Not a lending company. Not a business. Your stepson's personal bank account. I did not move. I did not blink. I simply listened. Linda continued, her tone steady, precise, and grounded in fact. There is no Southeastern Loan Servicing. It does not exist as a registered business in any state. She leaned forward slightly, not in sympathy, but in clarity. Your stepson created a fake loan document, very likely forged your husband's signature, and has been collecting monthly payments from you into his own account for 10 years. Her next words came slowly, each one deliberate. This is wire fraud. It is elder financial abuse. And it is forgery. She looked directly into my eyes, steady, respectful, unwavering. Under Tennessee and federal law, this qualifies for criminal referral. I can file a suspicious activity report today and connect you with a detective in the financial crimes unit. Then she said something that changed everything, something that shifted the balance of power in that room. You have something most victims don't, Mrs. Whitmore. Her voice softened slightly, not with pity, but with recognition. You have 10 years of perfectly organized receipts. Every single one is a piece of evidence. I sat very still. I could feel my heartbeat in my wrists, steady, strong, undeniable. I could feel the rough fabric of the chair's armrest beneath my fingertips. And deep inside me, I could feel something rising, something steady, something unshakable. It was not anger. It was certainty. I'm prepared, I said quietly. Tell me what to do next. Linda nodded once. Firm, respectful, decisive. Then she leaned forward slightly, her expression sharpening with professional focus. There's one more thing, she said. Before we move forward, her eyes held mine. Has Craig ever asked you to sign anything related to your house? My stomach dropped, because yes, just 3 weeks earlier, CRAIG had mailed me a document. He called it a tax form related to Walter's estate, something about updating county records. He said it was routine. He said I should sign it and mail it back. I had not signed it yet, only because I had been busy with a doctor's appointment and simply forgot. Sometimes, the smallest delays become the greatest protections. I showed Linda a photo of the document on my phone. She studied it carefully, quietly, for less than 30 seconds. Then she looked up. Mrs. Whitmore, she said firmly, this is not a tax form. This is a quitclaim deed. She paused, allowing the meaning to settle. If you had signed this, it would have transferred ownership of your house, your fully paid-off house on Maple Ridge, drive directly into Craig's name. The room tilted. For just a moment, I felt like I might be sick. The air felt thin. The floor felt unsteady. The betrayal felt deeper than I had ever imagined. Then Linda's voice brought me back calm, controlled, certain. Here's what we're going to do, she said. We are not going to alert Craig. You are going to continue as if nothing has changed. Her eyes were steady, focused, strategic. We need 1 more month of normal behavior from him while the detective builds the case. So that is exactly what I did. I sent the November payment. $1198. Receipt number 121. I filed it carefully in the manila envelope, just like every other receipt before it. Order. Routine. Evidence. Then I called Craig. I made my voice sound tired, agreeable, trusting the way he expected. Craig, I said gently, I've been thinking about that tax form you sent. I think I'll go ahead and sing it. He practically purred through the phone. That's smart, Dorothy, he said warmly. That's really smart. I'll come up next weekend to pick it up. We'll get everything wrapped up nice and clean. Nice and clean. Those were his words. While I played the quiet old woman on the phone, things were moving quietly, powerfully behind the scenes. Linda coordinated with Craig's bank in Charlotte. His account was flagged for a pending freeze. The Knoxville Police Department Financial Crimes Unit obtained his bank records through a subpoena, and what they found was staggering. 10 full years of deposits from me totaling $143,760, and then the spending began to reveal the truth. Withdrawals for a bass boat purchased in 2016, a Ford F-150 truck, 3 separate vacations to Cancun, and monthly payments on a condominium Craig had purchased in Charlotte in 2017. He bought a condo with my grocery money, with the money I should have spent on my roof, my car, my medicine, my life. The detective also retained a forensic document examiner, a specialist trained to analyze handwriting and signatures. The conclusion was definitive. Walter's signature was a traced forgery. It had been copied from Walter's actual signature on his electrician's business license, a document Craig had access to because I had given him Walter's business files after the funeral. I had trusted him. I had helped him. I had given him the very tools he used to rob me. On Thursday, Craig sent me a text message. See you Saturday morning. Have the papers ready. I looked at that message for a long time, long enough to feel the full weight of 10 years settle into a single moment. Then I picked up my phone. I typed one word, and I pressed send. Ready. Saturday morning. The air was cool and carried the fresh scent of pine and damp leaves. I was sitting in my kitchen at exactly 8:30 a.m., holding a cup of coffee I could not drink because my hands were steady, but my stomach was not. In my living room sat 3 people: Linda Reeves from the bank, Detective James Hall from the Knoxville Police Department Financial Crimes Unit, and my attorney, Pamela Chen, an elder law specialist that Arlene had helped me find. Pamela was small, calm, and composed. She wore a navy blazer, and the day before she had told me something I would never forget. You will not need to say much, Dorothy. Your receipts will do the talking. At 9:14 a.m., I heard a car door shut in the driveway, footsteps on the porch, then a knock firm, confident, ordinary. I walked to the front door and opened it. Craig stood there smiling, holding a folder in one hand and a pen in the other. He was wearing a polo shirt and khakis. He looked relaxed, comfortable, like a man who had been getting away with something for a very long time, and saw no reason why that would change today. "Morning, Dorothy," he said casually. He stepped inside and walked straight toward the kitchen table. Then he sat down in the very same chair he had used 10 years earlier. The same chair where he had slid that fake loan document across to a grieving widow and told her she was not good with numbers. He opened his folder and placed the quitclaim deed carefully in front of me. "Let's get this signed, and I'll be out of your hair," he said lightly. "Where do you want me to witness it?" I looked at him calmly. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "there are a few other people here today." Craig's smile faded, slowly, unmistakably, because at that moment, Linda, Detective Hall, and Pamela Chen walked in from the living room. Craig looked at each of them in turn. Then he looked back at me, and I watched the color drain from his face the very same way it had drained from the bank manager's face weeks earlier. "What is this?" he said, his voice cracking. "Dorothy, what did you do?" Detective Hall stepped forward. He placed a thick folder on the table right next to Craig's. Then he opened it. Inside were the facts. The forensic analysis proving the forged signature. The subpoenaed bank records showing $143,760 in deposits to Craig's personal account. The detailed spending trail. The boat title. The condo mortgage records. The Cancun hotel charges on his debit card. And a copy of the very quitclaim deed he had just placed in front of me. Craig's eyes darted around the room. "This is a misunderstanding," he said quickly. "Dad asked me to manage that money for Dorothy. It was an arrangement, a family arrangement." Detective Hall asked just one question, calm, precise, unavoidable. "Do you have a single piece of documentation proving that arrangement? A letter, an email, a text message, a witness? Anything?" Craig said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy, final. "Because we have 121 wire transfer receipts," the detective continued. "We have a forensic analysis confirming your father's signature was traced from his business license. We have your bank records showing where every dollar went. And we have the deed you just tried to get Mrs. Whitmore to sign, which would have transferred her home into your name." Craig shifted in his chair. His story changed. His voice rose high, fast, desperate. "She offered to help me out. She knew what the money was for. She wanted to help." At that moment, Pamela Chen, my attorney, quietly placed her phone on the table. Then she pressed play. Craig's own voice filled the kitchen, clear, undeniable, recorded legally under Tennessee's one-party consent law. His voice saying, "Dad took out this loan 5 years ago." His voice saying, "Just write the check to me." His voice saying, "You're too old to be worrying about this." The recording ended. The kitchen fell completely silent. Craig stared at the phone as if it had bitten him. Detective Hall stood. "Craig David Whitmore," he said firmly, "you are under arrest. The charges are wire fraud, elder financial exploitation under Tennessee statute forgery, and attempted fraud related to the quitclaim deed. They placed the handcuffs on him right there at my kitchen table. The metal clicked once, then twice. Sharp, final, unmistakable. Craig looked at me as they pulled him slowly to his feet. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I looked back at him from my chair. I did not cry. I did not yell. I did not shake. I simply held my manila folder in my lap, the one labeled Craig Question. Only now it was full of answers. I kept every receipt, Craig, I said quietly. Every single one. The weeks that followed moved fast. Craig's condominium in Charlotte was flagged as an asset acquired with fraud proceeds. A lion was placed on it immediately. His bass boat was seized. His Ford truck was seized. His bank accounts, every single one, were frozen, pending civil recovery proceedings. One by one, the pieces of his carefully built life began to unravel. Craig's wife, Janelle, filed for legal separation within 3 weeks of his arrest. Apparently, she had not known where the extra money had been coming from. She called me once. Her voice was small, unsteady, shaking with a mixture of fear and shame. She said she was sorry. I listened. I did not say anything unkind. I did not raise my voice. I simply thanked her for calling, and then I gently hung up. Craig was denied bail at his initial hearing. During the arrest, the detective had found something on Craig's phone, something that changed the judge's decision. Search history from just 2 days before he drove to my house. He had been looking at one-way flights to Costa Rica. The judge considered him a flight risk and denied release. The bank's fraud team carefully calculated full restitution, $143,760 in principal payments, plus accrued interest, plus additional damages for emotional distress and financial hardship. Craig's total liability was climbing far beyond the amount he had originally stolen. My attorney, Pamela, filed a civil lawsuit for elder financial abuse. Under Tennessee law, elder abuse cases can qualify for treble damages, meaning the penalty can be 3 times the financial loss. The potential judgment was now more than $430,000. Craig's employer, a commercial real estate firm in Charlotte, where he had worked faithfully for 11 years, terminated him the week after his arrest became public record. His North Carolina real estate license was suspended, pending investigation by the State Real Estate Commission. Everything he had built with my money was being taken apart piece by piece, slowly, methodically, legally. He tried to call me from the county jail. I saw his name appear on the Calorid. I watched the phone ring. Once, twice, 3 times. I let it ring until the sound stopped. 2 months later, a letter arrived at my door. The return address was the county detention facility. Craig's handwriting was printed neatly across the envelope, familiar, unmistakable. I picked it up. I held it in my hands for a moment. Then I set it quietly on the table, unopened. And without another thought, I stepped outside to water my garden. The first restitution payment came in March, $47,000, recovered from Craig's seized assets. My attorney told me more would follow as the civil case continued moving steadily through the courts. I sat with that check in my hands for a long time. It felt like holding 10 years of my life compressed into a single piece of paper. The first thing I did was pay off my property taxes in full. No installments, no delays, no worries hanging over my head. Then I called a roofer, a real one, licensed, bonded, and accountable. Not someone's nephew with a ladder and a promise. For the first time in 8 years, my roof was repaired properly. No more buckets lined up in the hallway when it rained. No more listening to the steady drip of water in the middle of the night. Just quiet, dry, safe. Then I bought a new kitchen table, solid OAK, with sturdy legs and a smooth, polished top. Strong enough to last. Simple enough to feel like home again. I donated the old table to Goodwill. I did not want to sit at it anymore. Too many bad memories had settled into that wood memories that no amount of cleaning could ever erase. So I let it go. I enrolled in a watercolor painting class at the Knoxville Community Center. Every Wednesday morning, I sit with 11 other people and paint flowers, landscapes, and sometimes just colors that feel right in the moment. I am not particularly talented, but I am happy. And at my age, happiness is a very precious thing. I also started volunteering at Westview Elementary School in the library 2 mornings a week. I shelve books. I help organize the reading corner. And during circle time, I read stories to the first graders. The children call me Miss Dorothy. One little girl looked up at me one morning, smiled wide, and said, "You smell like cookies." And I will tell you this honestly, that may be the finest compliment I have ever received. In the backyard, I planted a butterfly garden, milkweed, lantana, coneflower, simple plan, bright colors, living things that grow quietly day by day. By late summer, the butterflies came, the delicate monarch, the graceful swallowtails. Every evening, I sit outside with a tall glass of sweet tea and watch them drift gently from flower to flower. The air smells like warm soil and blooming things, and in the distance, I can hear the soft music of the neighbor's wind chime 3 houses down. It is a peaceful sound, a steady sound, a sound that reminds me life goes on. There is one thing I framed and hung carefully in my hallway. Receipt number 1. The very first payment I made to Southeastern Loan Servicing, dated November 14, 2014. $1198. I did not hang it there out of anger. I hung it as a reminder that paying attention is not a weakness, that keeping records is not paranoia, that being quiet does not mean you are foolish. I did not win with anger. I did not win with shouting. I did not win with revenge. I won because I kept records. I won because I paid attention. And I won because being quiet is not the same thing as being weak. Last month, I drove to the cemetery where Walter is buried. I brought a small bunch of yellow daisies because those were his favorite, even though he would never admit to having a favorite flower. I set them gently against the headstone. Then I stood there for a while, hands tucked into my coat pockets, breathing in the cool, still air. And after a moment, I spoke softly just the way I always used to. "I took care of it, honey," I said, just like I always did. I want to leave you with this. If someone tells you that you are too old to understand your own finances, that is not love. That is control. And if someone is rushing you to sin something, telling you not to ask questions, telling you to just trust them and not bother with the details, slow down, take a breath, step back, because the truth is never in a hurry. Keep your records. Keep your receipts. Keep your dignity. They are not just pieces of paper. They are forms of protection. So I ask you today honestly, sincerely, what would you have done if you discovered that someone you trusted, someone you welcomed into your life and treated like family, had been stealing from you for 10 years? Would you have confronted them right away? Or would you have waited, stayed quiet, and built your case the way I did? Tell me in the comments. I truly want to know. And if this story moved you, if it made you think, or reflect, or feel a little stronger, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you do not miss my next story. And before you go, tell me one more thing. Which city are you listening from? I truly love knowing how far these stories travel, how many homes they reach, and how many hearts they touch. Until next time, dear listeners, take care of yourselves and take care of your paperwork.